If you say the word continent, it could sound like the word consonant. The T can turn into a fricative S, and the I can merge with a schwa, So, there you have it, consonants. And it's a fitting homophone, because for those of you who have followed this series up until now, you'll know that the English vowel system is quite vague and constantly changing, like the waves of an ocean. But consonants, now there's something much clearer. We can really put our feet down on consonants and see what's going on. We're land mammals after all. Land ahoy! So I'm on to the second half of the pronunciation course, and the focus switches from the 20 or so vowel sounds to the 24 consonant sounds of GB English. And I always mark such a dramatic change in direction with a simple question. What's the difference between a vowel sound and a consonant sound? And it's really amazing because I can say a sound that nobody in the class has heard before, and they will be able to tell me 100% of the time if it is a vowel sound or a consonant sound. So if I say "oh," everyone knows it's a vowel, and if I say everyone knows it's a consonant. But if I ask why, it's rare to get the right answer, at least straight away. In other words, everyone instinctively knows and recognizes the difference between vowel sounds and consonant sounds, but most people struggle to explain it. Well, the best way I can think of to describe the difference is this. When you make a vowel sound, you make a shape in the mouth and then release sound through it. Every vowel sound is a different shape. But consonants aren't like this. G is the sound of a blockage. Brr is the sound of another blockage, but it's in a different place and in a different way. So you could say that consonants are the sound of obstruction. Obstructions and shapes. Land and sea. I digress. Or do I? The thing is, learning consonants is a very different process to learning vowel sounds, and it needs a very different approach. You can identify a consonant using 3 criteria. First, it's voicing. Are you using your voice or not? Voice consonant sounds in English are v, th, z, j, b, d, g, j, w, r, y, l, n. Voiceless sounds, made with no voice, are f, th, s, sh, h, p, t, k, ch. The next criterion is place. Where are you obstructing the air? Going from the front to the back, so starting with both lips, which is bilabial if you like fancy names, we've got p, b, m. Then if you put your teeth on the lip, you get labiodental sounds, f, v. And if you put your tongue touching the teeth, that's dental sounds, th, th. Then tongue touching the gum just behind the teeth, that's the alveolar ridge, so these are alveolar sounds, t, d, n, l, s, z, r. Of course, with the r, the tongue doesn't actually touch the ridge. Not anymore. And just behind the alveolar ridge, we've got sh and zh and ch and j. On the hard palate, that's the roof of the mouth. That's what we'd call palatal. We've got y. And going further back, we've got the velar sounds, k, g, and ng, with the back of your tongue just touching that soft kind of part of the roof of your mouth at the back there. And finally, going right down to the throat, you've got h, which is in the glottis. So English has a big cluster of sounds around the alveolar ridge. So that's place. The final criterion, after voicing and place, is manner. How do we stop the air as it leaves the body? English has essentially 5 groups. Fricatives, which squeeze air, f, th, s, sh, h, v, th, z, zh. Plosives, which kind of stop it completely and then explode it, p, t, k, b, d, g. Affricates, which are a bit like a plosive, immediately followed by a fricative, ch, j. Approximants, which are a bit vowel-like. They're not full blocks. W, R, Y, and lateral approximant L. And finally, nasals, where you have some sound going through the nose. N. So using these criteria, a voiced bilabial plosive is the B in big. A voiceless dental fricative is the th in think. And a voiced velar nasal is the in wrong. But often with consonants you have a slight variation to the sound, shown with a diacritic. For example, the p in pen is aspirated in English. It has a little puff of air as it's released. P. The n in tenth is in a different position to the n in ten. In tenth, it has become dental, so it's changed position. So these alterations that happen all the time when we say sounds in connected speech are very important when you're trying to get the accent just right. So the challenge for learners with consonants is really two things. Firstly, to identify any sounds that are new and learn how to pronounce them. And secondly, to identify any sounds that look the same as in a learner's first language, but are actually subtly different, and then to learn these variations. Variations of a phoneme are called allophones, and I'll be talking a lot about these over the coming few weeks on the POG. So on the whole, consonants present a very different challenge to vowels. In many ways, they are more fixed and visible, and their spellings are normally easier to match with the sounds. But it's not all plain sailing. Or should that be hiking, since we're on land? I'm mixing metaphors here. Let's just say, consonant variations are a big thing, and we'll be getting to grips with them starting next week with fricatives. Question. Question. Question.
Iwa.
This week I had a question about a transcription I posted of the word sword on Instagram stories. I posted it in British and American English, the only difference being the British version had long or and no r, and the American version had the same vowel and r, but with no length marks. Sword and sword. Andreas asked if it could be transcribed with an r-coloured schwa in the American version, giving it a sort of diphthongal quality. Sword. Well, I certainly think it could be said that way. Sword. But indeed, you'll hear British English speakers say sword too, with a centering diphthong. But I'm not aware of any dictionary that uses these diphthongal transcriptions. The sound or is actually a tricky one to analyse phonemically. It tends to be represented as an open mid-back rounded sound, but in reality, in both GB and American versions, little or actually no rounding takes place, and it's close mid rather than open mid. Sword. Sword. There, I had no rounding at all, but it didn't sound strange. But if you go for the diphthongal version, rounding is necessary. Sword sounds weird without rounding, but sword sounds right. And in the American version, that would be sword. So it's just another example of how variable the vowel systems are on both sides of the Atlantic, which brings us nicely back to our nautical theme. So all that remains is to throw the anchor down and let all these strange vowels gently rock us off to sleep. If you have a question, do send it in via the socials or by email, joseph.hudson@pronunciationstudio.com. Speak soon.